G'day ladies and gentlemen, the Buttsman here. Allow me to introduce you to this lady, Shoe on Head. That's what she goes by. And she recently made a video about male loneliness. And I thought it was very, very interesting to have a female perspective. Her video really opened my eyes. I knew that men were facing a lot of issues, particularly internally, but I didn't know it was to this extent. I mean, obviously there is a reason that men choose to end it all disproportionately to everybody else or the other genders. It's 75% to 25%. Those are the numbers, and that's pretty terrifying. But her video attracted 3 million views. And let's have a look at it. Let's work out why. This is Shoe on Head's video, The Male Loneliness Epidemic.
I regret to inform you, the men are not okay. That's right, folks, the men are not okay. The men have no friends, no girlfriend, no college education, no money, are breaking their legs and inserting metal rods into their bones to be a few inches taller, and listening to AI Batman help them overcome their pornography addictions.
Okay, hang on. There is a lot to unpack there. Surely men aren't lengthening their legs. Surely that's not a thing.
Limb lengthening. It's a thing. This is where the bone is cut and slowly pulled apart, and this is what's going to stretch the bone out and make it longer.
Have you heard about men getting the 4-inch leg extensions?
I have. I don't know what the is going on. People are losing their minds, man.
Yeah, okay, they are. That's, you fucking proved me wrong there. What the fuck, gents? But surely no one is listening to AI Batman to stop them jerking off.
I understand that quite a few of you out there are dealing with a pornography addiction. If you are struggling, I want you to know that you have my support and that I'm here to help you through this.
Gee, thanks, Bruce. There goes all of men everywhere's credibility. Fucking fantastic. Shoe on Head, whose real name is June, which is a much nicer name than Shoe on Head. What the fuck does that even mean? June has a lot of evidence that, us men are facing some issues, and the average man isn't doing too well. But before we go any further, ladies and gentlemen, this video is brought to you by the great people at Black Forest Supplements. As Shoe on Head's video continues, it will teach us that there really is an epidemic facing men that has to do with loneliness, that I think has a lot to do with masculinity being seen as evil, which leads a lot of men to feel misunderstood and extremely lonely. Could this problem stem from lack of purpose, or one of the many other issues that are decreasing testosterone levels all over the world? Maybe it's social media or dating apps. They're heavily skewed towards the female chooser in an era where the essence of masculinity is constantly under scrutiny. It's really refreshing to see brands like Black Forest Supplements take a stand. They recognize the challenges modern men face and are committed to providing solutions that not only address physical health, but also the emotional and mental well-being of men. Nicotinamide mononucleotide, or NMN, is a naturally occurring compound that plays a pivotal role in the production of NAD, a vital coenzyme present in all cells. The Black Forest NMN supplement is designed to combat some of these challenges by promoting healthy aging, boosting testosterone, and overall enhancing your well-being. With Black Forest Supplements, you're making a statement that your masculinity is important and it makes you a healthier person. And good news for all the Aussies out there, Black Forest Supplements gonna hook you up with a massive deal. Black Forest Supplements is offering free shipping to Australia, and that's not all. For the next 48 hours, you're gonna get 25% off. Yes, that's right. It's the perfect time to experience the anti-aging benefits of NMN and support your cellular health. Black Forest Supplements has a huge range of great products to support your health as a man, and I encourage you to go and check out their website. The link is down below, blackforestsupplements.com/Isaac, or use code word Isaac to get 25% off. Now, back to the video.
Why are men and boys struggling? And what should we do about it?
A few new studies have come out that have shown that young men are more lonely and single than ever before. But it's not just men. The women and children too. It's predicted 45% of women will be single and childless by 2030.
Now, many people see that as a really positive thing. And maybe if you had asked me at 18 years old what I thought about the family unit and getting married and having children, maybe I would have had a similar response. Because there's many people out there that have had terrible breakups or bad relationships, or maybe they've just been taught from a young age that they don't want to be spending too much time with the opposite sex because they're bad people, evil, etc, etc, etc. But if you know me, you probably know my family, my wife and my son, you creeps. I just want to put this out there that that is the best thing that I've ever done. I've been very lucky in my life to perform stand-up all over the world and sell out shows and have specials on Amazon and all this shit. The YouTube channel, everything's great. But that family unit is number one. I'd happily give everything away tomorrow just to keep that sacred. Now, I spent many years with my wife making sure that our relationship was solid. We waited many years to get married. It took us 8 years. We became adults in that time. We got to know each other better and better and better. And even then, we didn't know if we were ready to have children, but we did. And we've become closer as a couple since doing so. And I just think that this lesson that a lot of people are throwing out there into the ether, you see it on TikTok, you see it everywhere, that you don't want to be in a family, you don't want to have a wife and kids, man, I think that is a shit piece of advice. I really think it is. But also, just as shit, you don't want to get married at 18, 19, 20 years old, because that's a great way to set yourself up for failure. You don't know the person. And many of us come from broken homes because of that, because our parents got together and they didn't know each other. But it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. If you're going to marry someone, if you're going to have a child with someone, get to fucking know them, dickhead. People being repulsed by the family unit is crazy. It is the best thing that I've ever done.
But according to the media, this is a good thing. The she-economy is booming, as they say. And meanwhile, men being single is treated like this.
New study explains why some single men are having a hard time finding a new partner.
The fuck is happening to old love on the left? Does she require some sort of assistance?
Some of the music that they listen to speaks very derogatory.
Right. Yeah, man, stop listening to that derogatory music.
Okay, so single men are bad, single women are good and powerful. Which all of this, and when we hear this as young dudes, we see ourselves as the villain, and this just compounds this loneliness and hatred that builds up in our heads, and we just think we're pieces of shit. Like, imagine treating a dog like this. Imagine like raising it from a puppy and saying you're a bad dog, you're a worthless piece of shit. How can you expect that dog to grow up and be a fantastic member of the society? It's not going to happen. And all of this does not even slightly help the horrific numbers that I mentioned earlier.
Research shows that people from individualist countries show a greater sense of loneliness. This is linked to socioeconomic development, increased education, a shift towards white-collar jobs, and urbanization.
Okay, so this is interesting. The more developed we become, the more separated we are. And you know, you've probably seen this in your personal life. When you're in your early 20s, most of your friends, somehow, something happens and they're no longer available. They're focusing on work, they're focusing on their significant other, and they're spending all of their time doing that. Some people stay in the exact same spot their entire lives, and that's sad. You'll always be able to run back to your local bar or pub in your hometown, and you'll run into people you went to school with that have never done anything, and that's fucking sad. But I would argue what's just as sad is being in your mid-40s and only ever focusing on work. It's important, and everyone wants to get the bag. But, mate, you can be so rich, you can be so monetarily secure, and yet so lonely. Like, how many rich people are on antidepressants? A fucking lot of them. They have all had the heartbreaking realization that getting the bag isn't everything.
Japan also has an issue with loneliness. In fact, they have a whole movement of people they call the hikikomori. Did I say that right? I don't care.
Racist.
Basically, postmodern hermits. Mostly young men who completely withdraw from society, secluding themselves in their rooms for months and years at a time.
Jesus, combine that with AI Batman telling you not to wank. What the fuck do you do with all your time? It is a mystery.
In 2010, there was an estimated 700,000 hikikomori in Japan. And today, it's estimated to be about 1.55 million.
Wow, okay, so it's doubled. You can only imagine what that does to the birth rate of a country. In fact, here are the numbers. It's a steep decline. It affects the population. Look at this one in blue, leading to the population possibly halving in the next 80 years, which, hang on, this is science, thus creating a population that is extremely old and a young population that is expected to provide for them, which just doesn't work. Japan will face a shrinking workforce. They will face extreme pressures on the healthcare system. And what they will also face is people having to work more, be away from family more, focus on work more. Once again, let me throw a thus in there. Thus, having more men lonely. Thus, having less people in relationships. Thus, having less people have kids. It's this vicious fucking loop, and thus more people will kill themselves.
So Japan's population has been in a sharp decline since 2011. It's gotten so bad that Japan even produces videos of live-action women staring into the camera to help the hikikomori learn to cope with eye contact.
Oh! Thank fuck for AI Batman. Those images, Jesus, I would just jizz in my pants if I hadn't been watching AI Batman on loop for 24 hours. Now, Shuon Jun here goes on to explain that the declining birth rate and the loneliness can all be attributed to social media.
Why go on dates and bother meeting women when I could just tap, 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 Google big boob and get 2 million results? Or see my high school crush's holes on OnlyFans for only $5.
Okay, that sounds like my perfect Sunday, but please do go on.
Instant dopamine, instant satisfaction, and hey, who even needs a real woman when you could just have an AI girlfriend? We're f***ed. We're so f***ed.
Okay, yeah, that is something that we're all going to have to face, this dopamine addiction. It will be the next big war on drugs. We are having children who are, under 12 months old, babies, who are becoming addicted to iPads. And you open up this faucet in their brains of dopamine every time you put one of those fucking things in front of them. And it just runs and runs and runs. And once someone becomes addicted to dopamine, it acts like any other drug. They become not only dependent on it, but they also have a tolerance. So they need more and more and more to get that hit. You've got kids chasing the fucking dragon. And as that child becomes older, they become a toddler, they need more and more and more. They're a teenager, then they're an adult, they need more and more and more and more fucked up things to get their fix. And I don't think you can get that from the regular world. So you'll probably have more people becoming hermits, becoming recluse. It's dangerous. And it all starts at a young age.
Men are not just lonely when it comes to dating, they're lonely when it comes to friendship too. According to Vox, Americans are currently in a friendship recession, and men are being hit the hardest. The percentage of men who reported having at least 6 close friendships fell in half since the 90s. 1 in 5 men say they have no close friendships.
Okay, so you have no chances with any women. You have no friends as an adult. That is a recipe for disaster. That is only going to end one of 2 ways. It's either going to end with a massive addiction, right? With drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, whatever. Or someone gets to this level of sadness where they see no other possibility or reasons to extend their life anymore and they take it. Fuck me, that is sad.
Looking at all these statistics, the explosion of figures like Andrew Tate is not surprising at all.
I believe being a man is a blessing because it starts so difficult. I believe that every man is born without any value at all. I think that the world's never going to think you're important unless you make yourself important.
And I guess this is where Andrew Tate and people like him have come in to fill the void. They're filling the void around the mind of the lost boys. They give men all around the world something that people have never told them, that it's okay to be a man, that it's okay to be masculine. Once again, to use that dog analogy, if you grow up being told that you're a bad dog, that you're just for being a dog, you're gonna think you're a bad dog. You won't want to be a part of society because you're scared of yourself. We need to be telling young boys and young men that it's okay to be manly. We just have to harness and understand masculinity. That is the key. It's a tool. Learn how to use it.
And recently, a new study came out about how young men are moving towards the right.
Which makes complete sense. Men are seen by the left as toxic, as violent, as dangerous, as bad. No wonder they're attracted to the right.
A few months ago, during one of the monthly song and dances, some progressive people I follow made the mistake of addressing men's issues.
Okay, so what Shuon Head goes on here to talk about is what people on the left, or progressive types, particularly on Twitter were saying that the left should be doing to encourage more men to come over to their side, to come over to the dark side, if you will. This was the fucking response to, just regular people who have left-wing politics in their minds. And as I've always said on this channel, take the best from both sides. But this is the response that people who see themselves as progressives, this is their response to people on their side of politics saying, hey, we need to talk to men, we need to rationalize with them and not demonize them. This is the response.
LMAO, cry about it. Boo f***ing who? Oh no, poor widow men having problems. Boo f***ing who? Grow the f*** up then. Have men considered being smarter? I'm enjoying all these sad little moids and their sad little tweets about their sad, pathetic lives. Sounds like a personal problem. Is the lack of compassion for men in the room with us right now? Maybe men are just not good people then.
That is akin to seeing someone on the edge of a skyscraper crying and kicking them off. That's not fucking tolerance. That's not understanding. That's hatred. Hateful fucking doctrine that is enforced by people who just dwell in these strange left-wing political circles. Oh, it's just fucking gross to see this type of hatred towards one gender. 50% of the world, you fucks.
Cry harder, losers. 90% of all homicides recorded worldwide were committed by male perpetrators. We should just get rid of all males, to be honest. This includes trans women, as they still retain male violence.
Fucking hell, ladies. Calm the fuck. Gee. And these comments, I've watched this video through, these comments go on for the next 5 minutes of the video. Here's a quick, just fucking fast forward through it. These are all negative comments, all hateful comments, all talking about how much they fucking hate men.
It's all systemic issues and societal factors and blah 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 until it's a man and then suddenly it's pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. This problem is just a consequence of the patriarchy. Now take a wild guess about which gender created the patriarchy. Solve your own problems and leave women alone.
And I think that really nails it. Men are men's biggest problem. Men are women's biggest problem. They are the climate's biggest problem. They are society's biggest problem. They are the world's biggest problem. The very universe has one problem and it is men. And yet we don't understand why there is an enormous disparity between the amount of men and the amount of women who choose to end it all. We really don't understand it? Mate, what's the point of living a normal, happy life? Or how do you even do that if you've been told you're a villain from your first breath, mate? I have a son, 6 months old, and I will not teach him for a second that there's anything wrong with being masculine. Not for a fucking second. Because that is his natural way of living his life. It's so crazy because if you went up to a young girl and said, hey, you can't be feminine, people would blow up, right? They'd be so angry. But that's what we're saying to young boys, and that's why they're fucking lost. I will not teach my son that. Not for a second, and you shouldn't either.
They would never talk about any other group this way. It's wild. And it's kind of like both sides are telling men to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but one is like, I'll show you how, and the other is like, fuck off. And when they're not telling men to straight up fuck off, they're giving the 200 IQ answer that nobody has ever heard before. Just show your emotions, bro.
Yeah, okay. The whole idea that men are sad and men are depressed and killing themselves because they don't show emotion is pretty bullshit. Like, a lot of dudes show emotion, and some people do need to show more and maybe need to express when they're feeling down and sad, but it's not the only reason. And the reason I think that showing emotion and talking about your problems is not the only reason, or it's a little bit bullshit, that that's the only reason that men are depressed and suicidal, is because look at, like, progressive Twitter, or X, or whatever you want to fucking call it. All right? Look at the progressive people, the left-wing people, the far left people. All they do is talk about how they feel, and complain, and bitch and moan, and they are some of the most unhappy on the planet.
The hashtag men has become the question du jour, and like, men have most of the money, authority, and do most of the murdering and assaulting.
The average young man in America isn't Jeff Bezos. Also, why did this motherfucker just FBI crime statistics at me? Men do the most murder. Okay?
They like having all of the stuff they don't deserve. They like that.
See, look at this. Even men are blaming men. I know that man has eyeliner on, so I probably shouldn't call him a man, but whatever. What fucking ever. But when men blame men for being men, this only destroys the tiny little bit of confidence that men have left. It's destroying it. Sure, most murders are done by men, the vast majority, but do you know who does all of the murders? 100% of the murders? Fucking murderers!
The right is saying to men, you will own a house, you will have beautiful children with your loving wife, you will have privacy, you will have free speech, you will own things, and you will be happy. And the left is like,
they like having all of the stuff they don't deserve.
A fine point. I think it's ridiculous to think that men won't gravitate towards right-wing politics or right-wing people when the only other option is you're a criminal. All this shit is taught in school, it's taught on social media, it's taught on the news, it's taught absolutely everywhere that men are the problem. And that is how young men are growing up, and they're going to grow up to know that they are the problem, and that is disastrous.
Anyway, misandry is real. Oh good, finally! And while it doesn't systemically affect cis men, it most certainly affects trans men. Oh. Y'all talking about misandry doesn't harm men, and trans men are right there reading this shit, by the way.
Fuck me. So no one gives a shit about men, but if it's trans men, we care. Are these people listening to themselves?
I see, now we only care about misandry because it affects trans men. Everyone stop! It's affecting a group I care about now. I love how the rhetoric just like evolved overnight from male tears to cis male tears. And I just have to ask, why aren't you including trans men in your misandry,
Nobody told me how.
Yeah, you should hate trans men as much as other men because they are and have always been men, right? Yeah, bigots.
Nobody told me how lonely being a man is. We knew what depth felt like before we transitioned. We knew what it felt like to have people want to hug us and to have people want to talk to us and to have a community. And then you transition and you're just a guy walking down the street that people cross the street so that they're not near you. And friendships are so much harder to build. What's hard is none of this invalidates how real and raw women and people who are in marginalized groups feel about cis white men. All of that's valid.
Nice, good work, that's good. Remember, always remember, white cis men bad. Always remember that, okay? And if you don't throw it into a sentence, you're fucked, all right? Throw it in there. But this is really interesting, this video. This is a trans man who's been a man for, I don't know, fucking how long. Not as long as people who were born a man, anyway. And he is saying that the world for men isn't this sunshine and rainbow location, this fucking paradise, that everyone cracks it up to be, that people teach people that men live in. In fact, it's quite bleak.
But I also now understand why the suicide rate is so much higher in men.
Welcome to being a man. Here's your complimentary isolation and yellow pillow. I love how even when he's experiencing the issues of being a man, he's like, this doesn't invalidate people hating men. Come on, bro.
I see here why Sean Head has a massive audience, almost 2 million subscribers. I'm sorry to say this, June, you think like a man. You're far too logical. That's why people like you.
Men struggling don't want to be lectured about the patriarchy. They don't want to be told it's all their fault. They don't want to be told they're part of the problem because first of all, they're not. The average 20-year-old didn't build society. They go to work, come home, off to sissy hypno fetish porn.
Thank you, Batman.
I've talked about this before, but a lot of men's value comes from the money they make, unfortunately. Men are natural providers, and if they have nobody to provide for, they get into findom or send random girls on the internet money.
Men have a desperate need. A need to belong, a need to be of value, and a need to do things. The points she's making in this video are fantastic. I think they're very important, and they're quite nuanced. Here are some others. The average man doesn't control society. He doesn't control big business. He doesn't hate women. He doesn't hate anyone. He doesn't enforce the wage gap. He does no harm. He isn't a purveyor of the patriarchy. He doesn't do any of that shit. The average man is just like you, just trying to get by. Except you're teaching him that he's a bad person just for doing that.
A lot of men simply feel like they don't have a purpose anymore. Whether a job or a career that's fulfilling and pays well, or a woman or family to protect and take care of and provide for.
I love that the argument against protecting your family is, well, you shouldn't have to protect your family because men are the ones attacking your family. Fucking shut up. Yes. No one should attack anyone, but that's not the world we live in. You need to be masculine so you can take on the bad masculine people, you fucking twats. It's the whole reason we're all bigger, stronger, and more aggressive than our female counterparts.
Men are lacking purpose, and a man will crawl through broken glass for a purpose. But you know who does make them feel like they have a purpose? No, not him.
I say that life as a man is exceptionally difficult. I say the most beautiful and the most terrifying thing about being a man is you're born without values.
Andrew Tate is very much a religion. He has doctrine. He has a fucking 10 commandments, law, everything that religion has, he has. But so does feminism, communism, veganism. We love religions. We are very desperate as a human race to find new religions because we have been brought up with religion. And I'm not a religious person, but I think we're all hungry for new religions, something to buy into, a cult. Rightly or wrongly, it just so happens that for young men, Andrew Tate fills that void right now. Doesn't mean it will forever. And hopefully, as a society, we'll go, well, okay, we need better speakers as men. But he does some good things. He might be a piece of shit in other parts of his life, but he tells men to fucking work hard to achieve what they want to achieve, to get to the gym, to be better versions of themselves. And I think that is a good thing. As I said, sure, he's done some bad shit, but not everything is bad that he does. But people can't see it like that. I think this was a great video. My video and Shoe on Head's video. She took the perspective as a female and looked in. I think that was very important to do, and I think more women should do that. I've seen Sydney Watson do the same. She has some great videos on it as well. Good on you, Shoe on Head. I appreciate you, and it's a nice change of pace. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you think is the cause of male loneliness, and what can we do to navigate around it? Be a good motherfucker. Peace to the Middle East. Mid extincts. Toodaloo au revoir. Bye-bye.